All right, so next up is Michael. Michael is the director of Sullivan on Comp, and today he's going to talk to us about ChatSOC. So this is an AI assistant dedicated to legal research, and he's going to talk us through the lessons of creating ChatSOC and some of the things that can be applied to creating your own assistants that may be niche or specific to certain topics. So, Michael.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. I wanted to ask, before I start, a quick show of hands. How many folks here are in a developer role or programmer, primarily? Okay, and how many are in more of a product or an operations role? So what do you think, 60-40? Is that about what it is? Maybe 65-35? My perspective is product, so that's the story I'm going to tell. But I knew this would be primarily, or there'd be a lot of developers here. So I've really tried to incorporate those lessons we learned along the way that might be of use. And of course, you can all tell me afterwards if we hit that target or not. But I'm going to tell this as a story, like how we got to this finished product. Okay, so Sullivan on Comp is a content subscription service that is sold to attorneys, adjusters, and other professionals who handle workers' comp claims in California. We have a legal treatise, we have benefits calculators, we have professional education webinars, and also monthly updates on content that this community cares about. In April of this year, we launched ChatSOC, but I often hear it called ChatSOC, and I kind of like that too. But ChatSOC, I've got a quick video on it. It's an AI integration with our content. So users can interact with the content using this interface.
How much time do you waste on research, combing through different workers' compensation resources, or waiting for your colleagues to get back to you with answers? Meet ChatSOC, your personal research and communication assistant. Get an answer to any question about California workers' compensation in seconds. Draft text for a memo, email, or letter in minutes. Continue the conversation to get context-specific answers or brainstorm your next steps. Focus on things where your expertise is indispensable. Let ChatSOC help with the rest. ChatSOC is included in your Sullivan on Comp subscription. Get your free trial or demo today.
Okay, so that's a marketing video. But the cool thing is, it really works. Our users are getting a lot of value on it. So how do we do that? Well, to tell the story, I have to go back in time to 2022. Late 2022, AI was in the air, right? ChatGPT launched in November. In December of that year, I went to the Legal Tech Fund in Miami, where I saw one demo after another of legal tech products that had AI integrated into their products in meaningful ways that were adding real value. And I got very inspired. In fact, I went to the website to pull the screenshot, and that was me furiously taking notes, right? So I came away from that conference, I knew what I wanted to build, but I had no idea how to build it, right? So after the holidays, I booked a call with a self-proclaimed AI expert on Clarity.fm. And I don't know how many folks have come across this site. I like it. I use it every now and then when I want to just get someone on the phone and talk to them about their particular expertise. So from that conversation, I emerged with a target, which was we were going to self-host and train a GPT-3 instance, which is what was publicly available then. And very quickly, we started working with other models. But what do we have to work with? Our content. We don't sell books anymore, but we did for a lot of years. And our legal treatise covers the entirety of California workers' comp. We also have a sister company, IEA Training, and they had a comprehensive course with 500 true, false, and multiple choice quiz questions. So that's what we had to work with when we got to work. So we started training models. We gave GPT 3.5 the quiz, and it failed. Okay, well, by this time, Llama 1 was out. We tried the 7 billion parameter model. It failed. Okay, how about 13 billion parameters, right? Anybody? Prediction? right? Okay, so at this point, my boss stopped coming to the developer meetings. But to his credit, he was losing interest, but to his credit, he didn't kill the project. And that was great because we had more ideas. We'd been paying attention to blogs and papers that were coming out. And so we decided to try RAG. I'm pretty sure everybody in this audience knows what that is, but just to clarify, we would take the user's question and do a semantic match to our available content in the treatise and find the portions of our content that we thought would best answer the user's question, feed them together to our model, and ask it to answer the question as informed by the content. All right, so started to see some movement on our quiz results. And this was pretty cool. In March, and now here's the thing, we were very concerned about our content getting into any public model. But when OpenAI clarified that they wouldn't be training off API submissions, it took us a while, but by July we decided we were willing to take that risk based on that assurance. And we did it again, and this time, that went by quickly, but that was with LLM, or excuse me, OpenAI's or LLM. All right, so now we're starting to see some more progress. And we also had this tool in front of some various user groups. So what we found was when we asked, our content experts were using this tool, and they were really trying to defeat it, right? So they would ask these really tough, very hard questions, and they were happy with the results they were getting. They were impressed. Now, our product is owned by a law firm that has 100 workers' comp attorneys in the firm, and they also were using this. They were seeing kind of mixed results. Some were getting value, others not so much. And then we also had a beta group of adjusters who had this. They were not so happy. And if you think about the range of legal expertise, right, those experts are the experts, and then the adjusters have familiarity, but not that true legal expertise. So that was obviously an informative and interesting pattern. We wanted to have a better understanding of what was really happening. So we had one of our content experts go through. At this point, we had over 300 actual questions and answers to assess. So we had those answers rated on a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being the best, all the way down to 5 being just flat out wrong. And what was amazing to me at this stage, honestly, I was blown away that we could create a tool that could get 50% of any question someone might submit right and do a good job. It was really impressive. But this is not a product yet, right? We can't do that. So back to the lab. All right, so let's look at these questions from experts. Now, I don't expect you to know the workers' comp, but you can discern from that. There's a lot of content in those questions, right? So when we're trying to do a semantic match to our content that's going to answer those questions, it's like there's something for the algorithm to get a purchase on, a grip. Whereas here's just some random user questions. If you were in our industry, you could look at that question, any of those questions, and know what the user meant by it. But there's not actually much content in there. There's certainly not enough content to narrow down. So that kind of led to our next idea was, let's have the AI try to infer the meaning and let the AI make queries rather than just try to match directly to the question, right? Now, this is probably a pretty obvious concept now, but we were kind of figuring it out as we went, and that was a real breakthrough for us. So when we did that, we saw a real nice lift. And then we continued. So the other thing that was happening is every time we'd make a change to the model, it'd come to my desk to start asking questions and make an assessment, did we improve things or not? And that was crazy, right? Because it's subjective, it's time consuming, and we don't even know if we actually did make things better or not. It's not enough data. So here's what we did. At this point, we had more questions and answers from our test groups. So we had our content expert go through, and he identified different categories of questions based on his opinion of how much of an expert you would have to be to answer the question. So we segmented like a sample of 600 questions, and then he went through and prepared written answers to all 600 questions. Now we had an amazing data set. And you can imagine with this in our possession, we could really start innovating quickly. So here's how we did it. We'd make a change to the model, and we would have the new version of the model answer all 600 questions. Then we would have a separate job sent to the LLM asking it to compare each question against the gold standard, each answer against the gold standard answer, and rank it based on similarity of the content. From that, we could derive a score for the whole benchmark, and now we had a way to measure, are we making progress or not? And if we run that for every iteration, very quickly, we saw more progress. Okay, so what were some of the parameters we were iterating around? The underlying language model, embeddings model optimization, and I'll come back to this in a minute. Keyword search integration. So here's the interesting thing. You can't just match semantically, at least we couldn't in our content, because a lot of times people would ask for a summary of a legal case. Well, the name of the case are the parties to the matter, and there's not meaning in a person's name that matches what that case actually stands for. That's a clear example of a keyword search. We already had that in place for our Treatise content, but when we added this to the process of generating answers for our model, it really gave us a nice lift. The prompt engineering, and then evaluation and feedback loops, like Kevin talked about earlier, and I'll show you, what that looks like in a minute. And finally, knowledge-based management. So what I mean by this is sometimes a user question that did not get a good answer would expose to us shortcomings in our content. And sometimes it'd be as simple as just modifying our Treatise content with another sentence or two. And we have a monthly update cycle, so we publish it in the next update, and then that content is now available to our model as well. Okay, so what have we learned? I mean, finding a strong developer was really important. We got really lucky. We found someone who was a true collaborative partner every step of the way. And I can't imagine doing this without that person's involvement and all that he brought to it and his creativity. But I want to say you can accomplish a lot with a small team. So the two of us were working on it together closely, and then we had our content experts who were helping us make assessments. We had a very clear target. We knew what we were trying to build. And that's funny, that key ended up in the wrong place. This is the one that's the key. Develop the test. That was the one artifact that went wrong in the conversion to Google Slides. But you saw how we used those tests all the way through. And I think one of the other insights too is the idea that your initial testing will get you so far, but as you get better, then it's time to create your next test. And it may be that we have to continue to do that as well going forward. This is an opinion, but in our experience, for our use case, closed models are leading the way. They're spending so much on what they're building. We saw much better results using the OpenAI tool set. And then don't be daunted by compute costs. Now, here's what I mean by this. When we were building out our processes, we could think of ways to use the API to do something that would help improve the results. But we would also say, that's going to increase the cost per answer. But if we can't give a good answer, what are we doing, right? That is the thing we're doing. And so we just decided we're going to make this thing as good as it can be every step of the way, and then we'll just deal with the cost. Maybe we have to charge more to access it. But here's what's cool about this. So this chart is showing, first of all, on the red line, the number of chats per month, and the blue bars are our monthly spend with OpenAI. And of course, we got a nice break, last couple of months when we started using GPT 4.0. That brought the cost down significantly. But also, that's our total cost. So that's including all of this back and forth for the tests that we're running during this initial training period, in addition to the costs we're spending on just simply answering user questions. So our feeling is that if you put this thing in place and it's working well, that over time, the costs are going to come down just because the models are getting cheaper and better. This was our perspective early on. We weren't waiting for someone to tell us how to do this. And here's my challenge to you. Just go make it happen. So that's my talk. I'm happy to take any questions and curious, what they might be. Yeah. Thank you.
So I hope I'm not asking a dumb question, but can you define what chats are?
I'm sorry?
Chats versus costs.
Yeah, okay.
Chat a single question? Or
No, it's an entire dialogue.
Okay, the entire dialogue.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a dumb question? Should everyone already know?
No, I don't know. I mean, this is honestly the first time I've spoken. I have a kind of close group of peers that do similar things, but I have not really spoken about this outside of my primary peer group, so I don't know what the words of art are,
There was one slide you mentioned where like people were giving sort of shorter questions, and you said let's hand that off to the LLM to maybe get a fully fleshed out question. Then talk more about that. I mean, it seems like I guess the reliability of trying to interpret what the user is asking. I mean, it sounds like maybe they were doing a Google type keyword search rather than giving a complete question. But it sounds like the reliability of taking that short question, handing it off to the large language model, letting it complete the question, that worked well?
Well, yes. So, the thing is that we found in terms of just getting an accurate answer versus an answer that's not helpful or doesn't truly answer the question that is being asked accurately is all about matching the right content. Like, that's the whole thing. And so the way that we're doing that is we, with our prompt instructions to the API assistant, telling it, you have access to this content database, please take this question and, formulate a query in the context of California workers' comp. And I think this is where we get this impression that the OpenAI LLMs are useful, is they seem to know a lot about our area. Now, they don't have the level of expertise that we have internally, but they're not that far off. They kind of do understand California workers' comp at a higher than a beginner level, for sure. So I don't know. They are able to make that query pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah, I got two kinds of questions here. First one is sort of related to what was just discussed. You said that you're validating the response against the questions that were originally asked. Is that based on the utility's rephrasing of that question to utilize term of art, or is it based on the original question that might have been input by the user?
Yeah. Okay, so it's based on the original user question. So we've got, let's just say we bring back 5 different sections of our treatise. We instruct the LLM to read the article and assess how likely is this article to answer this question asked by the user, and give us a score from 0 to 1.
And then the last part of that is, I'm curious what the value you all saw as in dollar amounts. You spent $115,000. Have you retrieved all of that? Have you provided that amount of value without having to task an attorney or a paralegal or anything like that?
Yeah, so this product is used by about 8,000 paying customers, and a lot of them are on group accounts. But our sense was that what we want to do is create so much value that they will tolerate, price increases that make up for the cost plus, the profit margin. And our sense is that's going to be possible. Yeah.
Over here.
Oh.
Over here, and you can go next.
Yeah, really appreciated seeing the economic side of the work. So your costs are obviously like dependent on API request volume. How do you think about pricing? Are you doing a metered pricing structure for your customers, or is it a monthly subscription? How do you, because it's variable on your side.
Yeah.
So.
Our pricing model is monthly subscription. And we decided to put it into the product and not make it a separate add-on or a premium offering. We just felt like, you have to experience it to see the value in it. And we would have more success just making it available to everyone and then encouraging them to use it than we would making a separate thing that we're trying to sell them off to the side.
Are you thinking of it as like a retention?
Yeah, that too, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'm curious about something. Have you put any guardrails to make sure that they are only talking about comp?
Yes. Yeah.
And have you found that there are users that want to talk about other things, use it just as a general purpose assistant?
Generally, no. I mean, because it really is a professional customer base, and they come to us for that expertise. And I think everybody has access to ChatGPT at this point, or knows that they have access to it.
You do some red teaming, like aggressive, try to get it to do other things?
Yeah, probably, I think that's an area, sitting, being a part of all these talks this morning, I think that would be, I got all sorts of ideas for like things we need to do to better protect ourselves, for sure. Yeah.
So we have one question here and then one question over there, yeah? Over there? Yeah. Cool.
Great talk.
Thank you.
So for that first LLM call where it rephrases the original question, do you expose that back to the user for them to double check whether they agree with the rephrasing?
No. And I should mention, we allow it to do multiple calls. So it can assess, the model is, the LLM is assessing what it gets back and if it likes it or not, and if not, to ask again. But we're not asking the user to. That's an interesting sort of validation step that might be appropriate. Yeah.
Just in case it hallucinates or like understands or whatever.
Yeah.
So back from the operator side, I'm in the front here,
Okay.
And the costs and so forth on your cost graph. You talked earlier about how you no longer print the books. Is that a direct causation because you started using this app?
Well,
did you use that in your ROI? Because I know printing costs can be really outrageous compared to $2,000 or $4,000 a month for AI chats.
It's really interesting. Printing books was a real challenge. We're a pretty small team. And so it would take one of our team members 4 months out of the year to go from like that final sort of moment where we say, okay, this is our year-end edition, the next year's edition, to having the books in the customer's hands. So it was like a quarter of a year of the work of a staff member. And we wanted to do all these things with our product, the digital product, which is clearly the future of our business. And we had like a really, capable staff member who has to be to do that book production, and they're like out of business for a quarter of the year. So that was the main reason. It wasn't about like the cost of the books specifically, because you can just charge more and more on the books to try to disincentivize it, and people keep buying it, and so you're making back what you need to make back, but it doesn't mean it's a good use of resources. Yeah.
Awesome. Time for one last question. Over here.
So, as mentioned just earlier about red teaming, have you got any issues or noticed any issues with security? Your cost is variable. Obviously, your subscription income is steady.
You're right.
But as a threat to your variable cost,
right.
If you have a bot that somehow weasels its way into submitting and could very rapidly ramp up your cost.
Yeah.
Do you have like measures in place to prevent those things from happening, especially maybe rate limiting that IP address or whatever it may be?
Okay, here's my answer. You just paid for my attendance at the conference by alerting me to an issue that I need to address the minute I get back. So I want to thank you for that. Yeah.
All right. With that being said, thank you,
Okay,
Michael.
Thank you.